Hi, everybody, and welcome to lucky episode number 13 of the Time to Calibrate podcast. It's also our first show of 2025. Bob here with co-hosts Brent from The Calibrated Wrist, Mark, writer at Worn and Wound, and special guest we're all excited to talk to, Chris Salih from the YouTube channel WatchChris. How's it going, Chris? Really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here.
Really appreciate that. So we usually start off the episode with a wrist check, and I'll go first. I'm actually wearing a watch today from a brand down your way, Chris, Tuul watches. I'm not sure if you've come across these guys yet. Tuul, and they did a sort of their take on the Dirty Dozen watch. They've called the watch the Filthy 13, which I think is just a cool name for it. So yeah, that's what I'm wearing today. I have a video dropping tomorrow on the watch, actually. So how about you, Chris? What do you got on?
I've seen those before. It's a Dirty Dozen inspired watch, but they're sort of taking a little bit of a play on it. I guess, right? Is that what they're doing?
They're actually from the Bronx, so they're not too far from you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What did you think of the quality on that?
Like top quality for the price. Yeah, good. Yeah, good watch for sure. Sure. What are you wearing today, Chris?
I have on a really weird watch. It is I dropped a video about this today. This is a Maron Musi, which is a very odd independent brand that nobody really knows. It's got 300 meters of water resistance without any plastic gaskets. So the way that they do that is with machining. So they machine it so precisely that it's metal on metal. It's a grade 5 titanium case that is metal on metal. It gets 300 meters of water resistance. And it doesn't have a screwed-in crown. It doesn't have any gaskets in the crown. And you could get 300 meters of water resistance with the crown open or closed. There's no screw element to it. You can go swimming with the crown open and you get 300 meters of water resistance. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I would highly suggest people check out the video because I've been binge watching your stuff the last few days. And I watched that today when it dropped. But the case, I think you said it's a 36-piece case held together by screws. It's a neat watch. It's a little crazy design-wise, but it is a very, very cool watch.
It's a very odd-looking. So the comments are 50-50. People think it's absolutely hideous, and then there are people who appreciate it. I appreciate it. I really like it. I worked for the brand for a very long time. Well, not a very long time. It was about a year and change. And we didn't sell any. I sold 0 watches while I was. Well, I didn't work for them. I mean, literally 0 watches. There was a few people who emailed me, but I went out, I showed people watches, and every time I would show it to them, I'd have to go through this whole explanation of what it is and what it does and how it works and, the movement, because it has a pretty special movement as well. And I don't know if it was me or it was the watch, but no one ever bought one of the watches. And then one day they were just like, okay, well, see you later. Have a good life. And I was like, I'd like to buy a watch. And they were like, sure. And I just, at that moment, I wasn't in the position to buy one, and they are very expensive. I mean, this one is it comes out to around $18,000 US.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's like, it's really expensive. And, I just so happened, and I went through this in the video. I saw one on eBay. There was a flaw in it or on it. And I made an offer. They accepted a ridiculous offer on it, $3,500, and that's it. So I bought it for $3,500.
That's awesome.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Your video will probably sell a few watches for them. So
maybe. I couldn't do it. Maybe the video can.
What are you sporting today, Mark?
I've got my Tudor Black Bay Pro still on my wrist. I haven't worn anything else since I've gotten it. Really enjoying it. It's just honeymoon is strong with this one.
Right on.
Nice. Brent?
I have it just came in yesterday. It's the latest issue from Seagull, the Seagull 1963. And so I think they're calling it the Icon. So it's a sort of green sunburst dial version of it with a bronze case, but it has a moon phase complication. So I've been wearing it around the house today to see how it keeps time, and did some photography with it this morning. And it's one of my favorites, I think, from them so far.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Is that the one with the star on the dial?
Yeah.
The red star? Yeah. Cool.
So with it being the new year, I wanted to ask you, Chris, if there's any standout highlights of the year for you last year. A couple for me were we had the Toronto Timepiece show up here. I don't know if you caught wind of that or not, but that was the first like big major show in Canada, let alone Toronto. So that was a huge highlight for all three of us. Also, the podcast wasn't even on the radar, but Mark got the conversation started on that. We're glad he did. But any moments for you that are top of mind last year?
Well, I live in New York. I live in New York. I don't live in New York City. I live right outside of New York. And, they have watch time every year here. And we also have wind up every year. I also belong to a bunch of different watch clubs, and I think one of the highlights for me from last year, watch wise, obviously, my daughter was born last year, so I can't have to say that.
That's the top right there.
I have to say that one, but I actually have it right here. It's the Toledano and Chan that I was able to buy. I met Phil. I went into the city and picked up the watch from him. That was like a highlight for watches in general for me last year. I really fell in love with this watch, and it definitely was my most worn watch of 2024. It's just a really weird watch that I normally wouldn't go for because I like tool watches and I like dive watch. I like things like, this where you have to explain it to somebody. But this is just, I thought this was just cool.
Yeah, don't kid yourself. You're going to have to explain that one too at some point.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I kind of like that though. I got to be honest. Like, when someone asks you what's on your wrist, and you're like, well, let me explain it, because it's not just as easy as saying, well, it's a Toledano and Shell. We're like, what is that? I don't know.
True.
That's part of the fun, right? Talking about the watches we have and having people ask questions about them, which is the only thing I don't like about my tutor is, you get a new watch, you want to put pictures on Instagram and you want to talk about it. But I think this watch has been talked about and photographed enough by so many people that no one needs my pictures or my opinions on it. It's my new thing, so I'm enjoying it. So as a top-notch research-based podcast, we here at Time to Calibrate headquarters thoroughly research our guests prior to interviews. And by that, I mean, we creeped your LinkedIn profile. It looks like you spent the better part of 20 years at a big finance firm. Was the finance environment in New York City what sparked your interest in watches in the first place? And I can imagine there's a lot of people there that wear a lot of watches and high-end stuff and so forth. Did that start your interest, or did you have an interest in watches prior to all that?
So I've been collecting watches since I was 14 years old.
So when you started at the finance place?
Yes, when yeah. So I still am in finance. I still work full time in finance, and the dream is not to do that eventually. But I started collecting watches when I was 14 years old. My grandmother bought me a Superman watch at Macy's in Queens, where I grew up, and it just kind of sparked the fascination with watches that I really has never left me. My father loved watches as well. My father was a bartender in New York City, and he wore a Timex, and he basically exclusively wore a Timex because he would wash his hands and wash dishes, and there was bottles involved and things like that, and grabbing ice and whatever. So he would wear a cheap watch that when it broke, he would just throw it out. But he always said to me, is like, he had one of those easy readers, because it's always dark in a bar. He needed something that would have big font on it. And he always wanted to get a nicer watch, but he ended up always going back and buying an easy reader or something like that from Timex. And just seeing my dad wear a Timex all the time, it made me want to own a Timex. And I got into Timexes probably, before anything else. Seiko, that led to Seiko, and then it led to other watches, and then other watches. I think my first luxury watch was a a Formula S from Juan Mercier, and it
I
had like
remember
this
those.
minty green. It was a PVD coated all black case and bracelet, and had a minty green, markings on it. It was just a cool watch, and that just it catapulted me into being obsessed with watches. So it was really my dad, I would say, and of course that first Superman watch. Those were the two parties responsible.
You still have them?
I still have the Superman watch. I don't have the Bois Mercier. I sold that a long time ago. But my dad's Timexes, there's a bunch of broken ones in a box upstairs. So I have those. My father passed away about 10 years ago, so those have become very important to me. But otherwise they would have been probably trash at some point. But they've been kept now. So
That's very cool.
Awesome.
So, question about the channel. Your videos are very well produced, and you're very comfortable in front of the camera. And I know that's something I struggled with for quite a long time. It's almost a practice thing. But now that we're talking about just briefly your career, was that something that you seemed comfortable right off the bat when you started? Were you doing presentations at the time that made that easier? And also, if you could maybe just touch on why you started the channel to begin with.
So, I mean, I personally don't think I'm that. I don't feel like I'm comfortable in front of the camera. I know I don't like looking at myself, and I really don't like hearing myself, because it's just always tough to listen to yourself. Sometimes it's just your own worst, enemy when it comes to certain things. But, I work in finance, and in finance, I deal with a lot of clients, and a lot of those clients are from other banks who I speak to on a pretty regular basis. And a lot of times, maybe you guys don't know, but you just have to be phony all the time, and you have to be happy. It could be you've had a very bad day, but you're talking to someone who basically pays your salary, because they are a customer, and they can't really be nasty to them ever. And so you always have to be nice. And so that has something to do with it, I think. But I started the channel because I really don't love what I do on a daily basis for my day job. And I really love watches, and I wanted to be in the community. I wanted to talk to other people about watches. My wife was in the watch industry. She worked for Panerai for 17 years. And when I would try to talk to her about watches, she would just get mad at me because she didn't want to talk about watches. She came home from work, she was talking about watches. And I was just, I would be at work, and not everybody, it's not the environment to talk about watches. And there's some people who were into it, but there was no real conversations happening about watches. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to meet people and talk about watches. And unfortunately, I just, so I started the YouTube channel in order to just really talk to people about watches. I had a lot of watches in my collection, and I decided to do a video a day, or not a day. It was probably a video a week when I first started, or a month. I don't remember, about each one of the watches that I had in my collection. And that was it. That's what I did.
That's cool.
Great. You and your channel were recently featured again on Teddy Baldassarre's Roundup for 2024. And I remember the first time it happened, you'd put a post up on the WatchCrunch forum, and you were very excited by that. Tell us what that kind of accolade means to you, and what has it brought to your channel?
So, I've started my channel about 5.5 years ago. The people that I started watching when I first started my channel, before I even had a channel, was TGV. I used to watch Just One More Watch, which you guys have had on the channel, Jody, and a few other channels, Federico. Teddy Baldassarre was a person that I was aware of and I watched, and his channel was a little bit different from the watches that I was trying to. He was focusing more on affordable watches, and then if I was sort of moving away from affordable watches, and now I've come back and I can appreciate affordable watches. That's why I actually started watching Jody and Just More Watch. But it's an honor to be on his channel. He has a million something subscribers, the biggest watch YouTuber or at least the legitimate YouTuber out there. And, it's definitely an honor to be on his channel. And I enjoy making those videos every year for him, and hopefully he continues to ask me to be on it. It does. I mean, you would be surprised. I don't get like 1 million subscribers from that. It's just, I get a little bit of a trickle for a day or two, and that's really it. But I don't do it because of that. I mean, he asks if we want to do it, and I say yes every year. Well, for 2 years now, and I will continue to say yes in the future. I enjoy his channel a lot now, and I pretty much watch all of his videos.
Yeah, excellent,
awesome. So one thing I love to hear about talking to other guys that are running YouTube channels, running one myself, is the process. From what I understand, you work, well, we've talked about you're working full time, and you also have dad duties. 3 children is the count, I believe now. How do you find the time to produce all of that content? Seems like there's weeks where there's like a video dropping every single day. Just wondering if you could give us some insight into what putting together a watch review kind of looks like for you.
Yeah. You ever see the movie Goodfellas at the end where, I forgot the guy's name, where he's making chicken cutlets and there's like a helicopter outside and they're watching him, and he's like on the phone with somebody and he's trying to figure out, and then he's like looking out the window. He doesn't know what's going on. The baby starts crying and he grabs it. He gets to the car, and that's kind of like what my life is like right now. I have 3 kids. They're constantly I have 2 boys. They're 8 and 6. They constantly fight. My daughter, who's just 1 year old, she's crying all the time. I work full time, but I also work from home. So I work from home 2 days a week and 3 days in the office, which is in Manhattan. So I'm when I'm in the car, it's probably the only time that I have that's a little bit peaceful. I come home. I also cook. So I started out, I was a chef for about 10 years. I worked at Disney World. I worked for Nobu in New York here, Nobu 57. I actually opened Nobu 57. I was the omakase chef there. I worked for Robert De Niro for a little while. And I cook dinner. So I also cook all the meals here as well. So it's just a lot going on. I do all of that during the day, and then at night, at around this time when my kids finally go to bed, I pop up out of bed after I put them to sleep. I come down here and I start making videos.
Wow. That's awesome, man.
And then the way I have it set up is I have 3 different stations. So there's stations with cameras, and I've invested in cameras. So I have a camera just sitting there ready for me to go in front of and, do an intro. I have a camera with the heads down look, the above the watch look, tabletop. And I do that. And then I have a macro camera set up so that it's just, so I have 3 cameras and that's it. Yeah.
Wow. Do you script your videos, or
I don't script them. I have a couple of bullet points, but no script. And I think you could probably tell from, because I repeat myself a lot. I will be the first to admit it.
No, they come across very natural, and the enthusiasm's there. It's really,
thank you.
I enjoy your videos. I've been a fan of yours for a very, very long time. Like you said, 5.5 years. That was closer to 6 or 7. But anyways, I've watched a lot of your stuff, and I was telling Bob the same thing earlier today. We had a chat, and I was telling him anytime I'm researching something or I'm looking for a watch, if I stumble on a video that's either yours or Bob's, I get all excited because I know your viewpoint. I share similar interests, and we look at things the same way. So every time I catch one of those videos, it always makes me happy. Yeah, it's very good.
Thank you. Awesome.
And so
that's always great to hear. I love to hear that. And I never thought I would. Like, that was something that I never really thought would ever come from this, that people would say, I like your videos. I just thought they were just out there and people were watching them. But yeah, that when that started, that's kind of part of the motivation for me. I'm sure, Bob, it's the same for you. When you get a positive comment, it
makes your whole day. It can make, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's odd. It's so odd. It's like some guy sitting in another basement somewhere. Who knows, who he is, what he's doing. Could have just murdered somebody, but he liked my video. So, I mean, he's good with me. I don't know.
So far, 1,700 plus videos on YouTube with as many as 200,000 views on some of those guys. That's a very impressive body of work now. I've noticed you've branched out a little bit. You do some top 10s now, gift guides, some listicles, and some other stuff. Do you find this type of content reaches more viewers, or reviews still get the majority of reviews? What do you think?
So I've had this conversation with other, YouTube content creators. Ben's Watches from Instagram, who I'm friends with, and Ben's Watch Club, and a bunch of other people. Like, we've had discussions
All the Bens.
in general about videos. Yeah, all the Bens and everybody, and Sam from Casual Watch Reviews is another friend of mine, and we've had lots of conversations about these types of videos, and unfortunately, those top videos, they get more views for whatever reason it is. People have shorter attention spans. They don't want to see a 7 to 10 minute video about one watch anymore. Although those are my favorite to make. My least favorite are the top 10 videos. I will be completely honest, but I do put more effort into those, actually, because I feel like, it's just a lot more work, and it's a lot longer. There's a lot more talking. I do enjoy making them, but I do like to make, a review about a watch like this Maramusi that I have on today, or or Timex that's just been released, because I'm genuinely excited about the watch. It's a little bit easier. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always easier when a watch piques your interest or captures your imagination, and it's the same for me. Whenever I'm asked to write about a new release, it's a new release. I have to write about it. It's fine. But if I'm passionate about the watch, or if I have some interest in the watch, the words just come by themselves.
Yeah.
If it's a watch that I don't particularly like, it's not my type of watch or whatever, then I could spend an hour in front of a blank page before I can put something down. And it's tough. I mean, the content, you still have to do it. And if it's not for me, it doesn't mean it's not for someone else. Like, you can't yuck someone else's yum, right? So you got to write it, and I do the best I can. But, like you said, when you're interested in it, it goes a lot easier.
Yeah. And when it comes to having a YouTube channel, there is a moment where maybe you thought you would like a watch and you get it and you really don't like the watch. And that's happened to me on a number of times. And I've sent back watches where I was just like, listen, you sent me this watch, I have to send it back to you because it's just not going to go well, but there are other times where I've kind of gone through it and I've pushed through, and I've made videos on watches maybe that were not my favorite, but I understand that, not everything is my taste. It's about the general audience, I guess. And I try and tailor to the audience watches that I bring to the channel. So it can't be only about me now. It was when I first started, but now it's more about, what do I think my audience will really enjoy? Because I know what my audience will enjoy. Luckily, it's a lot of things that I enjoy, but sometimes, I see a watch and I say to myself, I have to do a review on this watch because I think my audience will like it. Never mind what I like. So
we have a similar approach at the Calibrated Wrist, and it's interesting to hear you say that you send watches back, because we often do a similar process where, we triage from the very beginning. If somebody approaches us, we simply say, it's just not for us. And on occasion, we will get something and we think, okay, we can't do a largely positive review of this. We're just not interested in doing it, So it's interesting to hear you say that as well. Now, YouTubers, some of them focus on high-end watches, some focus on affordable watches, others maybe look specifically at micro brands, but you don't seem to particularly have a niche. In fact, your year-end roundup mentioned things like Citizen and Bulova and Zenith and Moser, among others. And that really runs the gamut. In fact, you even mentioned a $24,000 Ralph Lauren that I had never even heard of or seen before. And on top of all this, there doesn't really even seem to be one particular aesthetic that you like more than all others. So my question is to you, what constitutes a good watch in your eyes?
So I put my money where my mouth is, because I that is the way I collect. So what constitutes a good watch, or a watch that I find appealing to me, is it starts with visual. It's the it's the same thing when you're looking for a mate. You know what I mean? It's the physical that's going to attract you, but then
you got to try them all out.
Right, exactly. and then it's the substance that draws you in, right? The Ralph Lauren is a very good example. It's a $24,000 sterling silver ridiculous watch that is handmade in New York and Texas. It's a weird watch, but I own a Ralph Lauren watch. And I find it appealing. I've talked about it on my channel many times, and most people find it not attractive. Most people don't like Ralph Lauren watches, and for a number of good reasons, obviously, because it's like, it's a watch that you would expect near the underwear at the checkout line at a department store, right? But they, because Ralph Lauren is so into watches, he wanted to make something special, and there are other brands who have tried to do this. Zengno is in one of them, and there's a few other brands, they teamed up with GP, and there's a lot of other brands that have tried to do this and have failed. And really, Ralph Lauren has failed at this because the watches don't really sell. And if you go on eBay and places like that, you'll see. But it's just what I find appealing. Like that watch I found appealing. I put it on that list. I know no one else is ever going to put a watch like that on their top watches of 2024, but I had to, because it's just, and I put it as the first watch too. I just wanted to, I just wanted to say, here's how this list is going to go. So it's not going to be, that's it. So, I know. And you know what? A lot of people in the comments, again, if you look at the comments, they're like, that watch is terrible. It's so ugly. It's this, it's that. And I was like, all right, well, I like it,
Yeah, YouTube comments are not.
Oh, no.
Don't look at them. Just don't bother.
Yeah.
Unless you want to have a bad day.
When I started YouTube, I was about 50 pounds heavier than I am now. I lost weight because of YouTube, because it was tough reading those comments. People,
like, wow, come on, that's terrible.
Yeah, no, it's true. I don't know. Unfortunate.
So yeah, what was the initial goal for the WatchChris channel? And you mentioned before you just want to share your passion and your knowledge and so forth and all that. But where do you see it in like 5 years, 10 years? And do you ever see it replacing your full-time career at one point? You sort of hinted at that before.
Yeah. So initially I started it with just the idea of starting a YouTube channel to display all the watches that I had, sort of like a catalog for myself of video of all the watches that I've owned. And, I do sell a lot of watches and buy watches on a pretty regular basis. Not to make money, just to experience different watches. So that was my goal. I just wanted to do that. What ended up happening is people started taking interest, which, was awesome. I started getting more comments, more views. I would release videos. And then I think I released a video about, I think it was a Timex that I bought. I think it was the Giorgio Galli when they first came out with that watch. I ordered it. And then the next day I had off for whatever reason, and I made a video about it. And that video got about 10,000 views overnight, which was incredible. I couldn't believe that it got 10,000 views. And that really sparked me to really lean into YouTube. And then I started churning out more and more videos. And then brands started reaching out to me. Major brands started reaching out to me. Micro brands started reaching out to me. And now, like, I'm pretty content at where it is right now. If I continued in this pace and kept on just going along as it is right now, I'd be very happy. But it would be great to work in the watch industry rather than finance for me, because I don't have a passion for finance. I would say it's my job. I enjoy watches. I don't know if I enjoy finance. I like going to work. It's not the worst thing in the world, and obviously it pays my bills. So it's allowed me to be a watch collector, which is good. And I've done very well where I work in the bank, and I've been there for almost 20 years. So obviously they haven't fired me yet. So there you go. I hope one day that I could be in the watch industry, maybe have my own micro brand. Jody is a big inspiration. like what he's done. There are other people who have done a lot of collaborations, TGV. Again, Mark from Long Island Watches, who I'm friends with. I was just literally texting with him right before we jumped on here. These guys are inspirations to me. They've worked this into a full-time job. So specifically someone like TGV, who does tons of collaborations, and he has a really successful YouTube channel, and that's how he keeps afloat. That's how he makes money, basically. So
I had my next question I had lined up was exactly about that. I just watched the video that Mark put out the other day. He's looking for people with kind of like the 100,000 plus subscribers. You're in on that category. Have you ever considered actually doing a collab, or is maybe possibly one in the works? Is there something you can let us kind of in on when it comes to that?
So there is a Swiss brand that is they're technically Swiss. I think they're called Wicked Watch Company. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They're
I've heard
very
small,
small, but they also own some AliExpress brands. So there's Sugis and Seastern. I work with. I work with. So the owner of that brand approached me a while ago about doing a collaboration. So that's been in the works for a while, and that's going to be coming out hopefully within the next few months. That's a limited edition of 50 watches. It's a dive watch in grade 5 titanium with a meteorite dial. It's pretty cool. Very excited about that. So that's the first collaboration that I'm going to do. And then I was talking to Mark about doing a collaboration a while ago. Hopefully that moves forward, and I have some ideas of what we're going to do as well.
You said Wicked Watch Company?
Yeah, Wicked.
You sure they're not based out of Boston?
They are not. They are not based out. Wicked Sharp.
Wicked Sharp. Yeah.
No, they're not. They're not. They're. I think he's based in Hong Kong, and they have some components that are made in Switzerland. They're assembled in Switzerland, but I think they're mostly made in China, obviously. But yeah, it's hopefully that comes out soon. I'm pretty excited about that.
That's very good. Like you mentioned, Jody, just when we were watching, we had him on talking about Erebus, and you pretty much answered my question as well, as about eventually, getting into your own watches and making your own brand, and WatchChris watch would be pretty cool. WCW. You probably could even get some old wrestlers to do the promos for you. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So
I actually started my own watch club. So this is it right here. Gotham Watch Club.
Yeah, you know what? I saw that on Instagram last week. You guys had a meeting?
Yes. Yep, we did our first meet. We only have about 30 members so far, but we're getting members rapidly. So we started out, our first meet was about a month ago. We had like 6 people in the group. Now we have about 30 people in the group. So, and I keep on getting, new requests to join. So hopefully that turns into something as well.
So Gotham Watch Club, does everybody have to talk like this?
Yeah, you have to talk like Batman.
Yeah.
Well, social media is a little bit like the Wild West. Almost anybody can just hang out their shingle and say, hey, I'm a watch reviewer, or I'm a specialist in home renovations. Now, you arrived where you are through a lot of hard work and I think authentic enthusiasm. And I think people watch your channel because they see themselves in you. But what I wonder is, in the early days, did you ever have those, imposter syndrome moments, those moments of doubt where you thought, like, what am I doing? Or why should people listen to me? Do you even still have them now?
I still have them now. I mean, every day. Like I said, when I watch myself, I cringe every single time. So, and a lot of times I force myself to watch my own videos just to make sure that I edit it correctly, because I know I make a lot of editing mistakes. But yeah, absolutely. I try and educate myself as much as I can on all watches, especially the ones that I find, appealing and interesting, but also the ones that I don't. I want to know something about my channel. I never talk about Rolex on my channel, not because I don't like Rolex. I do like Rolex, but it's just something that I've never been drawn to collect. But I still want to know about Rolex. I still want to make sure that I know all that I could know about a Rolex, so that if I'm ever engaged in a conversation, I could hold my own about, a Rolex and the different models and how, how they're positioned and everything. So, and again, I'll go back to finance. That's not something that I could say about finance in general. It's like, I'm not that interested that I want to know about the things that I don't want to know about, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I'm so interested in watches that I live, breathe, and eat watches all the time. And I've built a group of friends that I could just go and talk to about watches. That's what this is about right now. And that's what my channel is about, and that's really it.
Yeah, you sound a lot like me. I'm in supply chain logistics, and I've been in that field for nearly 30 years, and I've made a good living at it, and I'm very good at it. But that's not where my passion lies. My passions are in watches. That's all I do. I research watches, learn about watches, and I've been doing that for just as long. And trying to make a living out of it, it's a little tough from Canada, especially from Montreal. There's not a lot of big ADs here, and oftentimes when you go to an AD, you wind up knowing more about the watches they're selling than they do. Toronto's maybe a little different. There's a bigger market there, a lot more stores. It's now the new center in Canada for watches for sure. Vancouver probably as well. But anyways, that's very cool. And so I've got a question about your videos. Is there a favorite video of yours that you thought would get like, oh, this one's going to be terrific. It's going to be a bunch of views, and then it hasn't. And you left scratching. And if there's any, just like your moon swatch videos, you probably didn't anticipate 370,000 views on 2 of those videos.
No. So I would say almost all my videos, I don't expect anybody to like, I put them up and I'm like,
there's got to be 1 or 2 that you're like really proud of, or is this really cool watch and you're excited about. And
yeah, there have been, there was a video that I did when I bought a Cartier Santos, and I thought I put a lot of effort into that video, and I put it up, and it was very popular. I was very surprised. It got pretty good traction for a watch that existed. I wasn't the first one to put it out onto the internet and get a lot of views. So I realized that is an easy way of getting views now. Be the first. That's it. So if you're the first to get that video out and it's a watch that no one else has reviewed, then you're going to get views. But for something like that, to get a watch like this is actually getting pretty good views right now. The Maran Musi is getting very good views. I'm proud of that because, I wish I was able to do that when I was working for them, get more eyes on the watch, but I feel bad now. But whatever, here we are. And it's those videos where I'm bringing a watch that no one's really heard of. No one's actually done a video on before. Vicentera is another one that actually, again, I worked for them for a little while as a Vicentera. So these are all jobs that I've just taken on as their U.S. sales rep. And Vicentera was another watch company that I worked for a little while. And I sold a couple of watches with them. It wasn't terrible. Their price point was a little bit better. They were around $5,000. But I made videos. I've made a couple of videos about that watch on my YouTube. I think I'm still the only YouTube channel that's ever made a video about that watch. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud that it's a really obscure niche watch that no one knows about. And, it may not get a ton of views, but I think that's kind of what I want to do.
Yeah. And don't sell yourself short there. Your Cartier watch that you did the review and you were surprised getting a lot of views. People want to know your opinion. So it might be an older watch like my Black Bay Pro or Santos has been around for 100 years, or whatever it is. People have grown accustomed to your presence and your opinion, and it's they want to hear about it. So it's just not surprised that you're getting those views.
I still find it hard to believe, but thank you. It is what it is. I mean, yeah, I guess eventually people do want to hear what they're the people who they listen to on the train or on the bus or whatever it is, what they have to say about a watch, I guess. But Yeah.
One little relatable story to that is my 100% my least prepared video that I ever put out was an unboxing of a G-Shock. Can't remember the model. It was a couple of years, quite a few years ago now. Didn't know a lot about the watch. I learned it and did a full video later on, but that unboxing video was a bit of a disaster. But I woke up the next morning with like 80,000 views, and I was getting roasted in the comment section by all these G-Shock guys, because there's some G-Shock guys, they know their stuff. And I'm not quite to their level. I'm not too bad, but that video was just one of those ones that I maybe shouldn't have, but I left it up. It's up there now to this day, but...
Yeah, it seems like it doesn't matter if it's a positive comment or a negative comment, as long as there's a comment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So now that we are into the final days of 2025, anything you're looking forward to this coming year? Any highlights? Or sorry, the first days of 2025. Yeah. Any
did we time travel?
Any new releases or events, or is there any potential purchases, like some watches you're sort of zeroing in on for yourself?
Well, events, I want to go to wind up Chicago because number one, I've never been to Chicago, which is kind of crazy, and I definitely want to do that. I want to go there. Releases, I'm not sure. I sort of fly by the seat of my pants. There's when things come out, I sort of I jump on them and I get a little bit obsessed, and then after a while, it sort of fades out a little bit. I know Toledano and Chan are coming out with a watch very soon, and they just made a meteorite version of this watch that I'm very excited about. I have no idea how much that watch will cost, but it's going to be a full meteorite case, a meteorite dial, and a meteorite bracelet.
Whoa!
So this is 904L stainless steel with a lapis dial, the B1. If they come out with one in complete meteorite, there was a watch brand that did it a little while ago called David Rudden, and I had contacted them. They had like one or two watches left by the time I had contacted them. They told me a price. It was around $6,000. It was basically a solid block of meteorite. It had a Christopher Ward movement. It was their the SH21 hand wound form, and it was a jump hour as well, which was kind of cool. I believe it was the SH21. I'm pretty sure
that's their in-house one.
Yeah, and it was a jump hour as well. So it was a watch that they had put their own module on, and it was a really cool watch that I don't think anybody's ever heard of. They went out of business right after they sold their last watch. I put a down payment on it, and then they raised the price on me right after I put the down payment on. I was like, "Give me my money back," and they gave me my money back, and that was it. So that was my opportunity to get a full meteorite case. This is my second opportunity to get one. However, I'm a little bit scared of what they're going to actually charge on it. So see.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that it was possible to do that.
Yeah,
I always assumed that it was either very difficult to work with or very brittle.
It's very, very difficult to machine, and that's the reason why it's so expensive to actually create a case in full meteorite. De Bethune has done it. There's a few other brands who have done it, but they are very, very rare. Yeah.
I've written up a couple of pieces that have meteorite dials, and part of writing the pieces is doing the research on the actual meteorite. That's always fun.
Yep.
Very cool.
And it's crazy because they all come from like one rock that fell out of the sky in
Sweden or something, or
Norway,
yeah, Scandinavian place. And I don't ask me for the name of that meteor. It's some long.
It starts with an M. I know the one, but it's almost
Monunalista.
Wow.
Monunalista.
Oh wow! I thought you were kidding.
That is impressive.
That's made up a word.
Are we all making up words here now?
Well, Chris, you talked about potentially increasing your listenership and your viewership on YouTube. Well, you can count on the Time to Calibrate bump. So that'll really like help you out there. So that'll be great.
I appreciate it.
So I want to thank you very much on our behalf, and also on the behalf of the Watch community. For all the hours of enjoyment and learning and the pleasure of consuming your content for the last 6 years. You got to please keep up the excellent work. The Watch world wouldn't be the same without you.
Thank you very much. That's flattering.
I just want to say thank you, too, from the three of us for coming on. It's Friday night. This comes out Monday early morning, but it's Friday night, and I'm sure you have some kids to tuck in and a couple of videos to film. But
to film 2 videos tonight.
Really? Okay, cool.
Well, you're going to talk about the appearance on this show, right?
I absolutely will.
Yes. It was definitely a lot of fun chatting. If you're not, definitely follow WatchChris on YouTube for lots of great watch content. Thanks to everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye now. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.